Hey everyone, and welcome back! Today I want to talk about an idea that truly made me rethink how we approach the noise and chaos of daily life. It's about finding a deep, abiding sense of inner calm, not by escaping the world, but by learning how to master our own responses to it. This isn't about some dry, ancient philosophy you read in a dusty tome. It's about a powerfully practical framework for everyday living, a way to cultivate profound inner peace and clarity. For years, I've watched something called Stoicism. You might know it by its English name, quietly transformed from a niche academic topic into a global phenomenon. I remember just a few years ago searching for resources on it in my own language and finding almost nothing. It was baffling because in the English-speaking world, everyone from athletes to entrepreneurs was talking about how Stoicism helped them navigate life's toughest challenges. Fast forward to today, and it's absolutely everywhere. The buzz is undeniable, and that's where you, my listeners, came in. Suddenly, I started getting requests, "Can you talk about Stoicism?" My initial reaction, I'll be honest, was a bit dismissive. I thought there are so many great books out there now. Why don't you just pick one up and read it? A single podcast episode certainly couldn't cover everything. So I pushed those requests aside for a while. But then it hit me. Maybe I was misunderstanding what you were really asking for. Maybe, beneath the surface of those simple requests, there was a deeper need. A silent question you hadn't articulated. It dawned on me that what you likely weren't asking for was a history lesson, or a recitation of ancient philosophers and their timelines. No, that's what books are for. What if what you truly desired was something more personal? What if you wanted to hear about my own journey with Stoicism? How I've taken these ancient principles and applied them, stumbled with them, and ultimately integrated them into my daily existence. That's an entirely different conversation, and it's one I'm incredibly excited to have. Because if learning isn't for application, for truly living differently, then what's the point? This brings us to the core idea I want to share today. Stoicism isn't just a philosophy, it's a highly effective, practical guide for self-management, designed to help us achieve and maintain profound inner peace amidst the inevitable turbulence of life. Let me explain what I mean by that. Forget the stereotypes of emotionless sages. At its heart, Stoicism is best understood as the philosophy of everyday life. It's incredibly accessible, remarkably easy to grasp, and its practical application is immense, provided, of course, that we commit to consistently putting its teachings into practice. Think of it as a set of mental tools, a personal operating system designed to help us control and manage ourselves. That's it. Simple, powerful. The ultimate goal of this self-management, the entire reason for practicing Stoicism, is to reach a state of deep tranquility, calm, and serenity. Many might call it a profound sense of a peaceful equanimity, and let's be honest, who doesn't crave that? In a world that often feels like a constant barrage of drama, frustrations, and anxieties. Wouldn't it be wonderful to possess an internal compass that always points back to peace? To have the techniques to maintain that sense of calm and stability, no matter what external storms rage around you. That's precisely what Stoicism offers. Now, I want to be upfront. My definition here is drawn directly from my personal understanding and experience. You'll find many broader or narrower definitions out there, and if mine feels a little different, I hope you'll grant me that indulgence. I could easily pull a textbook definition from Wikipedia or one of the many excellent Stoicism books now available. But that's not what this podcast is about. This is about lived experience and when a philosophical framework is applied to the life of an individual like me, it inevitably takes on a unique flavour, a personal variation. So, if my interpretation doesn't perfectly align with every academic text, please bear with me. I find comfort and guidance in the words of the great Japanese reformer, Fukuzawa Yukichi, a figure who profoundly influenced modern Japanese society. He once said, "We do not study to argue. Learning is not for squabbling and wasting time. Learning is for doing." And that, my friends, is the spirit I want to bring to our conversation about Stoicism. My hope is that we can all find something valuable here, something practical to apply to our lives, something that helps us cultivate that much needed peace and calm in the face of life's daily chaos. If we can achieve that, then this conversation has served its highest purpose. So, having laid that groundwork, having introduced Stoicism as this profoundly practical philosophy of self-management aimed at achieving inner peace, let's dive into some of the foundational ideas that have personally transformed my approach to life. There's one principle in particular that I absolutely love, a cornerstone of Stoic thought often referred to as the Dichotomy of Control. You might call it separation or distinction. I've touched on it before, but for this conversation, I want to emphasize just how central it is to finding that serenity we all crave. This isn't just a minor tip, it's one of the biggest, most fundamental principles of Stoicism, the very bedrock upon which lasting inner peace is built. In essence, Stoicism, through principles like the Dichotomy of Control, teaches us to ruthlessly identify what is truly within our power and what is not. This distinction, this separation, is the single most important step towards mastering ourselves and finding tranquility amidst life's inherent disorder. It's about channeling our energy and focus precisely where it can make a difference and letting go of the rest. So, if you're looking for a practical pathway to more peace, more clarity, and less stress in your daily life, the core idea I want you to walk away with today is this: true, lasting tranquility comes not from external circumstances, but from the deliberate, practical application of philosophies like Stoicism, starting with the profound clarity that comes from understanding and embracing what you can and cannot control. This one idea, deeply understood and consistently practiced, has the power to fundamentally reshape your relationship with the world and bring you an unparalleled sense of inner calm. So, what exactly is this idea of separation or division? It's fundamentally about taking any situation, any problem, and ruthlessly splitting it into two distinct categories: what you can control and what you cannot control, and for everything you can't control, well, here's the brutally simple, yet incredibly powerful truth: let it go. Just forget about it. Seriously, why waste your energy, your mental bandwidth, on something entirely beyond your influence? It's like trying to steer a ship from the shore utterly pointless. Instead, pour all that precious energy into the things you can impact, because those are the actions that will actually ripple out and affect the bigger picture. Now you might be thinking, that sounds incredibly simple! And you'd be absolutely right. The philosophy itself is straightforward, almost deceptively so. But here's the crucial caveat, and one I've learned through countless experiences: don't ever confuse simplicity with ease. In fact, I've come to believe that the simpler a formula or principle appears, the harder it often is to truly integrate and apply in your life. We often find ourselves in complex situations with elaborate processes, and ironically, those can sometimes feel easier to navigate because they come with a predefined set of steps, a clear system to follow. But when you're faced with a principle as starkly simple as control what you can, let go of what you can't, There's no complex flowchart, no elaborate manual. You're left with just one or two core tenets, and the very lack of extraneous detail can make it incredibly difficult to grasp and apply in the messy reality of daily life. It requires deep introspection, a lot of careful thought, and a true commitment to understanding it, at least from my perspective. Let's bring this idea to life with a real-world example, one that many of us can relate to directly. Imagine you have a loved one, a spouse, a parent, a sibling, or even a child who is under immense pressure from their job. They're stressed to the breaking point, overwhelmed by workplace politics, salary concerns, or any number of other stressors. The challenge for you is this: how do you genuinely help this person improve their state of mind? It's a very practical, very human problem, isn't it? And this is where the rubber meets the road. It's not about how knowledgeable you claim to be. It's about whether you can actually use a philosophy like separation in these close, everyday situations. If you can't apply it here, then your understanding is, frankly, incomplete. Now, if we approach this situation purely instinctively, without applying this principle, we often fall into common traps that can inadvertently make things worse. We might, out of love and concern, try to impose a solution. You might say something like, "Look, if it's that bad, just quit. It's not worth it." But the truth is, the situation is almost never that simple. That person who's stressed about their job, they've probably thought about quitting every single day. They don't need you to suggest it. There are often complex reasons why they can't or won't leave, reasons you might not even be aware of. So, telling them to just quit can come across as dismissive, or worse, as an attempt to perform your care rather than genuinely empathize and love them in a wise way. True love, true compassion demands intelligence and careful consideration. It's not about just stating your opinion, it's about thoughtful engagement. So, how do we apply separation to truly help and empathize with our loved one? Let's break it down. Let's list out what, no matter how much we wish we could, we absolutely cannot control first: the work environment itself, the culture of their company, how their colleagues or superiors treat them, the daily dynamics of their job. You can't improve that. You can't dictate whether their boss is kind or cruel on any given day. That's entirely out of your hands. So, into the cannot control column it goes. Trying to fix their workplace is a fool's errand. Second, their decision to quit or stay. This is fundamentally their choice, their autonomy, and anything that belongs entirely to another person. You have to let it go. You can advise, you can express concern, but you cannot force them to make a decision. Try it, if you like. You can urge them to quit all you want, but will they actually do it? Probably not, unless they decide to. It's better not to push, because it's their life, their path. This, too, belongs in the cannot control column. Third, their feelings. If your loved one is constantly sad or anxious due to their stressful environment, can you simply tell them, "Don't be sad anymore"? Of course not. While their sadness might certainly affect your own mood, you cannot directly alleviate their emotional state by command. Emotions are internal experiences. They, too, belong in the cannot control column. I've just listed 3 things, but if you truly love and deeply reflect on this situation, you could easily list 10 or 20 more, and for every single one of these things, the message is clear: let it go. Forget about them. You have absolutely no power over these external factors or internal states of another person. You can try to change them, but I promise you, all you'll collect is frustration and disappointment. It's time to consciously discard them from your mental burden. Now, let's turn our attention to the other column. What can you control? This is where your true power lies, and it starts with a foundational truth. The very first thing you can control, and indeed must control, is your own state of mind, your own calmness. If you are not calm, if you are not centered, how can you possibly help anyone else? You cannot give what you do not possess. So, if you're someone who meditates daily, keep meditating. If you practice Stoicism every day, keep practicing. If you prioritize sufficient sleep, continue to nurture your health. Be meticulously careful with your own physical and mental well-being. Because only when you are at peace, only when you are stable, can you become a true source of support for others. And here's another crucial insight: positive energy is real, and negative energy is just as real. You don't need someone to say a single word for you to feel their negativity when you're near them. Humans are incredibly adept at picking up on these subtle frequencies. It's not just about what your senses can directly perceive. There are sound frequencies you can't hear, things you can't see are like radio waves, and things you can't smell, yet you absolutely feel them. These are those energetic wavelengths, and you can influence the positive energy you emanate. By cultivating your own inner peace and well-being, you become a beacon, a stable presence that can, in turn, subtly uplift those around you without needing to control their circumstances or dictate their feelings. That, my friends, is where your real power to help lies, and the profound impact that simply embodying inner peace can have, not just on ourselves, but on those around us. When we cultivate a sense of calm within, that energy naturally radiates outward. Imagine someone caught in a spiral of negativity, your quiet, steady presence, imbued with that peaceful energy, can be enough to offer them a subtle shift, a momentary balance that might just ease their burden, even if only a little. This isn't an act of selfishness, but a powerful act of contribution. Our peace serves both ourselves and others, creating a ripple effect, and it extends beyond just our internal state. What else can we actively do? We can offer genuine comfort and presence to our loved ones. A simple embrace, a reassuring word, just being there. We can't guarantee it will fix everything, but it's an action within our power, and we can trust it will contribute something, perhaps nudging their mood upward by a few crucial percentage points. Consider a parent or a grandparent struggling with sleepless nights. What can you do, subtly, practically? Perhaps suggest, Grandma, Grandpa, I've noticed you're having trouble sleeping. Let me install some meditation music apps on your phone. See if they help you drift off. We don't know if it will be a magic cure, but the act of offering that care, that attention, is felt. It's a conscious expression of our presence, our concern. These aren't magic bullets, capable of erasing all sorrow with a single gesture. But by consistently taking these small, intentional steps, by making our presence felt, we actively engage with what we can influence. We might be surprised by the cumulative effect. This is the essence of applying a Stoic mindset to daily life. Focusing on our efforts and our intentions, not on guaranteed outcomes. Let me give you another powerful example, one that hits very close to home for me: content creation. Whether it's videos or podcasts, so many elements here are simply beyond my control. For instance, the number of people who watch my videos. I can't directly command that, or rather, I could control it, but only at a significant cost by compromising my principles. I could create sensationalist content, 10 unheard of cures for cancer, or eat unlimited meat and still lose weight. And yes, the views would skyrocket, but that would be a complete betrayal of my ethical standards, sacrificing integrity for clicks. Creating content that is genuinely valuable, thoughtful, and ethical at least by my own personal benchmarks, rarely translates into huge view counts. The market often favours entertainment, trending topics, or outright sensationalism. That's just the nature of the beast. Educational or academic content, for example, typically won't rival the ratings of pure entertainment. I have to accept that reality. So, when I'm creating a video on a learning topic, I understand that the views might be high-low, or more often, just average. Therefore, views firmly belong in the column of things I simply cannot control. Then there are the malicious comments. The harsh, unfounded criticisms, again entirely beyond my control. The best approach, just let them go. Don't dwell on them. If I have 100 positive comments and 1 or 2 negative ones, focusing on the negatives creates an immense imbalance and drains my energy. And realistically, I'm not going to change the mindset of someone determined to be critical. So, I choose not to engage. What about the topic itself? Will it resonate? I might pour my heart into a video about how to love your job, a topic I'm incredibly passionate about. I upload it only to find very few people watch it. So, even the subjective success or popularity of a chosen topic falls into the uncontrollable category. I have no ultimate power over whether the audience embraces a particular theme. So, what can I control in this whole process? This is where I channel all my focus. First, I do my absolute best. I have a strict set of criteria that every video or podcast must meet. It has to be authentic, emotionally resonant, and genuinely practical, even if it's practical for a smaller, specific audience. If it passes these internal checks, I feel a deep sense of satisfaction. My energy goes into ensuring the quality I can influence. Second, clear illustrations are paramount. The visuals, the thumbnails on my videos, they must be unambiguous. If something is confusing, I scrap it and start over. This is how I fight for the quality that is within my direct control. Third, the music selection is completely within my power. The background music for each clip is something I carefully choose to enhance the message. Fourth, my delivery and presentation style. Should this particular episode be light-hearted, deeply emotional, or powerfully assertive? That choice is entirely mine to make. I focus exclusively on these elements that I can shape and perfect. And once all that's done, once I've recorded, edited, uploaded, then honestly, it's out of my hands. It's God's will, as they say. I genuinely don't concern myself with the outcome. This approach brings me immense peace. If a video happens to get millions of views, I don't become overly excited, and conversely, if it barely registers any views, I don't get overly discouraged. As I've told you before, whether it's success or failure, acknowledge it briefly and then move on to the next thing. Maintaining this inner composure is crucial. Being overly joyful can disrupt that composure, just as being overly sad can. We aim for a balanced, measured response. If we make a mistake, we learn from it. If we succeed, we appreciate it in the moment, and then we pivot to what's next. We can't change what's already happened. Now, as I'm speaking about this, I'm realizing a slightly painful truth. My recording timer says we're already at 27 minutes. After editing, it might still be around 20 minutes. I had originally planned to discuss 2 key principles of Stoicism, this one about control and another about negative visualization. I got so caught up in the flow, I completely lost track of time. If I try to squeeze in the second principle, we'll hit 50 minutes, and that's probably too much for a single episode. So, I owe you that second technique, the one about negative visualization. My apologies, I got a little carried away. But sometimes that happens when you're truly passionate about an idea. Think about it this way: you're in a race. A classic track and field event, 10 competitors, and only the top 3 get a medal. In this scenario, based on external outcomes, you'd have 3 happy people and 7 disappointed ones, right? Pure math of external validation. But what if I told you that? With a Stoic lens, every single one of those 10 runners could find contentment, regardless of whether they stood on the podium. This isn't about being naive, it's about shifting your focus. The Stoics, with their profound wisdom, offered a powerful framework to navigate exactly this kind of situation. They'd simply ask you to draw those 2 familiar columns. What can I control, and what can I not control? Let's fill them out for our race. Can you control the skill level of your opponents? Absolutely not. You might train harder than anyone, be in peak physical condition, and still encounter someone who is just naturally faster, or has dedicated their entire life to this sport in a way you haven't. That's outside your sphere of influence, so into the uncontrollable column it goes. Forget about it. Let it go. How about your final ranking? Can you control that? No, not really. You can influence your performance, but the ranking is a comparative outcome, dependent on 9 other people's performances, plus unforeseen circumstances on race day. You might have your best run ever and still come in 7th because it was just a particularly fast field. So, ranking. That also belongs squarely in the uncontrollable column, and truly releasing your attachment to it is incredibly liberating. It's about maintaining that inner peace, that profound sense of calm and equanimity that Stoicism champions. Don't chase the rank, chase your internal alignment. Now, let's swing over to the other column. The one that truly empowers you. What can I control? Here's where the magic happens. You can control your training regimen. Did you put in the hours? Did you complete every single workout you set for yourself? Did you push your limits responsibly? Yes, you can control that. You can also set personal performance goals. Not I will win, but I will run this 1,000-meter race in 3 minutes. That's a target tied directly to your effort, your discipline, your body. It's a goal you can work towards daily, measure, and ultimately achieve, regardless of what anyone else does. And here's the profound shift. If you hit that personal target, if you run the 1,000 meters in 3 minutes, you've achieved your goal. You've fulfilled your commitment to yourself. And you know what? That brings a deep, abiding satisfaction. You might finish 8th, 9th, even last, but if you met your personal performance benchmark, there's a profound, peaceful joy that comes from within. It's not fleeting. It's not dependent on external applause or comparison. It's yours, and it's earned. This perspective allows you to live in a truly fascinating state. You can lose externally and still feel profoundly happy, because sometimes you're just up against a formidable force. Think about a pickup soccer game. You might be a decent player, but if you're suddenly playing against a professional team, what's the likelihood of you winning? 0, you'd lose 100 out of 100 games. Are you going to be miserable 100 times? Of course not! Your focus shifts. Maybe your goal becomes, can I score just 1 goal against this incredible team? Or, can I make a brilliant pass? If you do, that's a triumph for you, because you focused on what was within your control and achieved a personal victory against overwhelming odds. We have to be realistic about our own capabilities and our environment. Don't live in a fantasy world. If you're running a tiny startup, aiming to directly compete head-on with a tech giant like Google or Apple from day one, you're setting yourself up for guaranteed heartbreak. They'll crush you, and then what? Will you be surprised? Will you be sad? That's not the Stoic way. Instead, understand your current reality, acknowledge their immense strength, and focus on what you can control, building a strong product, serving your niche, innovating within your means. The goal isn't to beat the giant, it's to build your company effectively, one controllable step at a time. So, the wins and losses, the strength of your competitors, these are things utterly beyond your control. Unless you resort to unethical tactics, which is not the path of virtue, you cannot dictate these external factors. So, let them go. Forget them. Redirect that precious mental energy towards what you can do. What are your daily goals? How much effort will you put in today? What personal benchmarks are you aiming for? These are the questions that truly matter. I've talked about goal setting before, a couple of years back, and it ties in perfectly here. Don't set a goal like, in 2 or 3 years I'll be a YouTube sensation or a successful CEO or XYZ. You cannot control those outcomes directly. Why not set goals for what you can do every single day? What can you achieve in your 8 to 9 hours of work? Focus on those tangible daily efforts. Set goals that are within your reach, within your immediate influence. Because paradoxically, by consistently achieving these small, controllable daily goals, you'll often find yourself reaching those larger, seemingly uncontrollable aspirations you never thought possible. Chasing grand, distant outcomes that have no direct connection to your immediate actions is a recipe for frustration and despair. And that, my friends, is the profound beauty of Stoicism. It's not some obscure, ancient philosophy detached from modern life. In fact, many of its core tenets resonate deeply with other wisdom traditions, Buddhism, Brahmanism, even ancient Chinese philosophy. There's so much common ground. When you sit with these ideas and really ponder them, you often find yourself arriving at conclusions that are fundamentally Stoic. That's why I say it's so accessible, so close to us, and incredibly practical for everyday application. Well, this has been a rather lengthy discussion, all centered around what might seem like a single, simple rule. But my hope isn't to bombard you with a dozen fleeting insights. Instead, it's to plant just one profound idea, deeply and meaningfully, an idea that I genuinely believe can transform your perspective and serve you well. I actually feel like I owe you a future conversation on a related topic. I'm keen to dive into the Stoic practice of negative visualization, how imagining worst-case scenarios can actually lead to a richer, more hopeful and joyful life. It's about experiencing all those emotions, yet still maintaining your calm, your equanimity. It's truly powerful stuff, and I promise we'll get to that in a future episode. But for today, for this deep dive into understanding what truly brings us peace and power, remember this fundamental truth, true freedom, and true joy don't come from manipulating the world to bend to your will. They come from mastering your own mind and directing your energy to the only things you can truly control: your actions, your judgments, and your character. The world will always present us with challenges, with unfairness, with circumstances beyond our grasp. But by diligently focusing on our inner citadel, on what we choose to do and how we choose to react, we unlock an incredible source of peace, resilience, and profound satisfaction. It's about building a life not on fleeting external victories, but on an unshakable foundation of internal integrity. It's about finding your calm amidst the storm, knowing that your greatest power lies not in controlling the waves, but in how you choose to sail your own ship. That's the lasting peace that Stoicism offers.